Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called I Saw the Future with the Killer Grand Duke. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! The story begins on a rainy day in early spring as the beautiful purple-haired villainess Gabriella lies on the wet ground, her blood blending with the rainwater. Her eyes are already looking so lifeless as she accepts that this is where she will die when, out of nowhere, a familiar voice calls her name, and there she spots her husband, Ernst, coming towards her in a state of confusion, tears streaming down his face, desperately begging her to hold on as he cradles her in his arms. We have only just begun, and it is already tragic. Ernst Cassel Eques, the leader of the forces of knights and the Eques formidable navy, is also the spouse of Gabriella, the fake saint. Yet their marriage did not start off so romantically, as their relationship initially began by contract. Okay, let me tell you guys where it all started. Our girl woke up one day as the villainess from a novel she used to read, only to realize that the character she's in is Gabriella, the daughter of a count, and has pretended to be a saintess. And like any typical villainess, she envied the female lead, who is the actual saint, bullied her, blah blah blah, and was punished to death. That's right. As you could expect after watching too many transmigration stories, our girl does not want to die as a villainess and wants to change the story. This prompts her to recall the novel's author's statement about wanting to write a sequel about an arranged marriage with the coldest man on the Northern Sea. Well, no one has this nickname except Ernst, so since the sequel is still in the works, she chooses to marry the guy in place of the female lead the author has in mind, so that she might escape her inevitable death. Her plan worked, and the story ought to wrap up here, but instead, she's dying. One of Ernst's knights is able to capture the coachman of the carriage Gabriella was riding in, and the man admits to messing with the carriage's wheels, which, paired with the forces of day symbol on his back, suggests that the first prince is responsible for this tragedy. Like that icy night, Ernst orders his knight to cut off the coachman's arms in order to force him to confess. Looking enraged, he even says that they should split his legs as well. Gabriella has never seen him so menacing because in their 3 years of their contractual marriage, he has been nothing but sweet to her. In that contract, they have 3 rules. The first is that they must pretend to love each other for 3 years. The second is that they should never fall in love. And the third is that they should not hold onto one another after divorce. However, our girl fell for this man and kept it all to herself. Gabriella wanted to give him something important before their contract ended so that he would no longer have to fear the imperial family. But she didn't expect to die before she could do so. Nonetheless, she manages to protect her ring, the Ernst family heirloom that does not melt in fire. She uses every ounce of her strength to inform Ernst that she swallowed the ring, and she requests that he burn her body to recover it, while he continues to cry, pleading not to speak as if she's really dying. Sadly, she lacks the strength in her final moments, so she simply apologizes to him in her mind and thanks him for not letting her die alone. Gabriella then opens her eyes, confused as to why she is still alive and witnessing the forces of day and night on the same table. Out of nowhere, her head begins to ache as if it were going to explode, and memories of Peony, Fair, and Isodium flood back, making her realize that she woke up as the innocent-looking princess with pink hair. She then notices Ernst on the other side of the table, who appears older and colder, and as the priest asks her to sign the paper, she finds out that she is now in the future, 6 years after her death, and is marrying her husband again, but as Peony, a member of the imperial family, which Ernst despises the most. Wait, double transmigration? She didn't travel back in time and is now marrying the same man twice in different bodies? This is not a twist, it is a backflip 360 cartwheel side flip front flip. Gabriella intends to inform him that she is indeed Gabriella, just in Peony's body. But she is unable to speak, so she tries to write it down, but her hand doesn't move. The fact that she can't tell him even though he's there in front of her is making her feel overwhelmed and frightened, since it could mean she has to live as Peony, the daughter of her husband's enemy. Since its beginning, the Isodium Empire has been divided into 2 forces. The forces of the day, who are devoted to the imperial family and reside in the capital south, where art, culture, and individuality are highly appreciated. Meanwhile, the forces of the night, formed around its navy, emphasize military power and hierarchy. Its inhabitants live by the Northern Sea, and they obey their admiral and commander, Grand Duke Eques. Religion, culture, and manner of life are very different between these 2 forces, so there's no reason to marry outside of their circle of power, which leads her to wonder why these two forces are having a political marriage. She is now in her room, and as she looks at the white dress she'll be wearing when she leaves in 3 days, she recalls Ernst's coldness from earlier, as if he did not want their marriage, which makes her wonder if it's because he still can't forget about her, his late wife Gabriella. However, she dismisses this thought, attempting not to hope for it, and just wants to assume that he is cold towards Peony because he has despised the imperial family and the forces of the day since he was a child. Although she hopes she isn't the reason he appears fatigued and underweight, a part of her wishes that it has to do with her. She was still thinking about how much she misses everyone in Equus when the servant, Sonia, barged into her chamber, arrogantly telling her to stand straight because she's going to alter the waistline of her dress, making her feel insulted as a princess. Since her early childhood, Peony Farron Isodam struggled to distinguish between her dreams and reality, often becoming trapped in them for weeks or even months. She's able to move her body, but her mind wanders in her dreams, preventing her from speaking and leading people to believe she's insane. She then suspects that her older brother Ludwig has been spreading rumors about her. She assumes that he views her as dumb, which she believes might be the reason she's still alive. This leads her to conclude that she must continue pretending to be the naive Peony in order to ensure her own survival. However, our girl isn't the kind to be taken advantage of, so she starts by asking Sonia nicely whether she is the one in charge of her dress, which the maid confirms. Peony then turns to her with a smile as she conveys the chilling news that she only has 1 hour left to live. She is aware that Sonia has replaced the original pearls on her wedding dress with fake ones, and this time she gives Sonia a wicked smile, reminding her that she will definitely be killed if this is revealed. Peony then decides to go to Ludwig to show him her dress, which makes Sonia feel extremely uneasy and offers to sew the pearls back, but the maid becomes mute when Peony comments that she must have sold the pearls already. Peony smiles at how stupid the maid is, but she thinks she can still use her for now, so she orders Sonia to kneel and plead for her life. With no other option, the maid complies with her order, making the bubbly Peony agree to help her little secret, but she must accompany her to Equus or else she'll end up in prison, compelling the maid to comply. I already love her. They did not have a lavish wedding, and now they are leaving the Land of Light. As everyone gathers outside, the first prince, Ludwig Frekon Isodium, a man with long blonde hair and wicked eyes, says farewell to his sister and assures her that his guards will accompany them to Dalton Port, ensuring their safe journey. Peony then puts on a facade of gratitude, pleasing the onlookers who are delighted to see the first prince. However, she can't help but notice the unmistakable greed etched on his face because, for her, he is nothing more than a glutton who believes he can possess anything he desires, even the precious heirloom of another family, and she also believes that he may have ordered Gabriella's death. Still, she maintains her composure, doing her best to act like the original Peony and internalizing the discipline she developed while being the Grand Duchess. Prince Ludwig then tells her that while he cannot accompany her, the third prince, Johann, will be with her. But Peony is certain that Johann is only forced to do this since he has a low status in the family. Prince Ludwig then encourages her to write him on occasion, prompting her to act once more, like Peony talking in the third person, which makes her feel disgusted. Ludwig actually traumatized the original Peony to address herself using her own name rather than I, to make sure that she would look stupid. Anyway, it's time for some payback, so she smirks and thanks him sweetly while twirling around to show him her dress, which surprises Ludwig and the other noble bystanders after they all notice the fake pearls on her dress. The noble ladies start muttering under their breaths about how Prince Ludwig personally paid quite a sum for Peony's dress, and conclude that all the rumors that he cares about his sister are all lies, leaving Peony delighted and satisfied because of how humiliated the first prince looks right now. Well done, girlie! Peony then requests Ludwig's permission to bring her maid along, and he readily agrees. However, he reaches to hold her shoulders, wishing her a happy life while squeezing her enough to make her uncomfortable. But she still manages to smile because the act is not over yet. Duke Equus interrupts them just in time, assuring them that he will take care of his wife from that day forward, removing the need for his involvement and promptly turning around to help his new wife. Peony believes the Duke may appear heartless, but he is not, considering how he looks after the princess. Ernst then graciously asks for her hand, which she accepts because she understands this is his way of showing everyone that he will treat her with respect. Peony's heart is pounding since she has never imagined being able to touch her husband again, much less marry him again. However, this is both a blessing and a curse, because Ernst has no clue that she is indeed Gabriella. While on the carriage ride, Peony is relieved to finally be able to escape her brother and the Land of Light when she gets startled by her own reflection on the glass window. cat-like eyes, porcelain skin, and rosy cheeks that suit a 23-year-old lady. Yet she has no choice but to get used to it. So, how old is Ernst right now? Anyway, she has a lot of unanswered questions. The first one is, who killed Gabriella? She has no evidence, but her top suspect is the first prince, Ludwig, considering the second prince isn't intelligent enough to carry out such a murder. Also, Ludwig has always been interested in ancient treasures, and since the attacker was also after the ring, she believes it must be Ludwig. Second, why in the novel world did she end up going to the future rather than back in time? You know, like a typical cliché that she'll go back in time and use her knowledge to fix her mistakes. In any case, Peony thinks it could be related to ingesting the ring. Lastly, she wants to know where the real Peony is, now that she's inside her body. Despite all these questions, she is determined to spend the rest of her life with Ernst happily and promises to give him that important thing she wasn't able to give him before. I wonder what that is. Peony attempts to tell him the truth again, but no matter how hard she tries, her voice fails to come out when she claims she's Gabriella, and all she can do now is look at him with longing. They're so close, yet so far. She then thinks back to the night they became closer. He carried her on his back as they walked silently along the beach, yet they were both at peace. She longs for those days and wants to break free from whatever restriction is preventing her from being honest with him. You poor thing. I can't even imagine the suffering of being alive and unable to let that special someone know you're back. However, out of nowhere, she remembers something about restrictions. The novel is about Ingrid, the novel's female lead, who woke to a world with role-based restrictions. Dante, a silver-haired man who is most likely the system admin, informed Ingrid that she needed to play her character role for a specific period of time to overcome the restrictions. To further explain this, he shows her the book of characters, where her character Ingrid Wavell is currently under the curse of never-ending retribution, and in order to escape it, she must take out everyone who chooses to fight with her, or she'll never be able to break free from the restriction. That's how the story goes on, leading Peony to assume that she too must act like her character for a while in order to set herself free from the constraints she suffers. Gabriella, the character she was given when she arrived in this novel universe, is a two-faced villainess. Therefore, she intends to be precisely that. She will express everything on her mind with a huge smile, occasionally embarrassing and outsmarting others while seeming to be dumb and innocent. Her train of thought is unexpectedly interrupted when Ernst initiates conversation and tells her that they'll be camping for a few days before reaching the port. He also mentions that he will give her the Eastern Villa at Castle Equus, where she can live with her servants. This surprises Peony since she can't believe Ernst can be so cold, prompting her to trace his face and notice that the expressions in his eyes have matured and his voice has deepened. Ernst then notices her staring at him and asks whether there is something on his face that makes her see the old Ernst in him, which she can't help but giggle at. Even so, she chooses to make an excuse, and as Peony, she smilingly claims that she simply finds her husband so attractive. That certainly succeeded, but Ernst now stares at her as if he loathed what he had just heard. He chooses to change the topic and asks if she twirled her gown earlier on purpose. But she pretends to be ignorant and puzzled given that she figures that Ernst only agreed to marry Peony because he knows how naive the princess was. It will be challenging to be dumb and act like she doesn't know anything, but our girl isn't going to let that stop her from smiling because, after all, who says naive girls can't do anything? She complains to Ernst about how uncomfortable her dress is, and instead of asking the maid to help her, she moves in closer to him and asks seductively if he could take it off for her. Oh my, such a dangerous woman, but yeah, you should get your man. However, our man here is not amused and simply looks at her with cold eyes as he informs her that they will stop the carriage and have a maid assist her. Peony's smile fades as she momentarily thinks that part of him will recognize the real her, so she simply returns to her seat and claims she doesn't need to change. It is a difficult thing to accept, but she knows Ernst is blinded by his hatred for the imperial family, and by the rumors of how dumb she is. Plus, who in their right mind is going to suspect Gabriella is inside Peony's body? However, she does believe Ernst is being overly cruel by sending her to the Eastern Villa, because she knows it is the building for irritating guests, implying that this guy has no intention of living with her as an actual married couple. Even still, as a girl who has been given a second chance in life, Peony resolves to make Ernst recognize who she truly is someday. That's the spirit? It is already evening, and they have set up camp in the woods, when Ernst aides and Equus Rear Admiral Sebastian Desens enters his tent to notify him that he has already ensured that their troops transport the goods to the ship. Part of that cargo is goods, but the majority of it are witnesses who swear to help Ernst bring down Prince Ludwig. He began this mission as soon as he received an official letter from the imperial family proposing an arranged marriage, since he intends to bring down Prince Ludwig, the guy who murdered his wife 6 years ago. I knew he still loved Gabriella after all these years. Ernst then chokes on the tea Sebastian prepared, prompting Sebastian to remark that he isn't as good as Her Grace, Gabriella. Ernst requests him not to call Gabriella Her Grace anymore, but Sebastian simply laughs it off, causing Ernst to sigh and remind him that Princess Peony did nothing wrong, and that they should be grateful that the princess can help them achieve their goals. Sebastian becomes somber, his expression distraught as he expresses how much he admired their late Grand Duchess. Aw, the fact that Ernst isn't the only one who misses Gabriella proves just how wonderful she is as a person. Ernst understands Sebastian's feelings because he had no intention to meet another woman after Gabriella left him, but they have no choice but to use the princess for their revenge, yet he vows to look after Peony like a little sister. A protagonist who appears icy yet still shows respect to a lady who is his enemies? Yes, please. After Sebastian exits his tent, their conversation about Gabriella makes him miss her a little extra today. He attempts to justify to her that he only married Peony so that he could travel more easily to the Land of Light to investigate the prince, using the princess as an excuse, as if he didn't want Gabriella to be disappointed with him. He vividly recalls her beautiful smile, her bluish complexion when she's cold, and the warmth of her skin beneath the covers. His tone shifts, though, as he begins to blame himself for that fateful day he was unable to reach her sooner after reading her letter. He makes an effort to remember his wife's death more than anyone else, visiting the spot where she died every time it rains to avoid forgetting the blood in her cold body, and vowing to kill the one who killed her with his own sword. Oh, sweetheart, you're being too hard on yourself. Suddenly, Peony enters his tent just in time to stop his dark thoughts. She happily offers to make him some tea, which is definitely making the Grand Duke upset. But sorry, my guy, Peony will not leave until she gives you little hints that she's Gabriella. He sighs and declines her offer, and she notices the table with teacups, leading her to believe that Sebastian must have prepared it. She makes multiple attempts to convince him until she unleashes her secret weapon, the irresistible puppy eyes that make Equus eventually give in. They look adorable together, but I also really like Gabriella's character design. She then begins to prepare the tea in front of him, and he can't help but be impressed by her skill. He finds himself wondering how Princess Peony, who is not known for her abilities or intelligence, can possess such grace while making tea. The sight of her gracefulness reminds him of Gabriella, and he can't help but miss her. Peony then gives him a cup of tea, which he gratefully accepts. But as he tastes it, he pauses in surprise because he recognizes the flavor. It tastes much like the tea Gabriella used to make for him. Asking if the flavor is nice, Peony intentionally mentions her liking for honey tea, making him hold his cup tightly, which she enjoys seeing. Her mission for the night is done, so she leaves the tent while Ernst sits there, speechless, as Gabriella also liked honey tea. But he shrugs it off and believes that these are all coincidences. However, his gut feeling is saying that something is off, so he decides to alter his plans and refrain from sending Princess Peony to the Eastern Villa in order to personally oversee her. He never imagined that anyone other than his late wife Gabriella could make him so confused. The beautiful Grand Duchess who's admired by everyone in Equus and the girl whose rare smiles charmed him. Because of this, he broke their contract by falling in love with her, and it was a feverish, one-sided love. All he could see was her silky skin, her soft lips, and he had many restless nights simply thinking about her. When he finally held her, he felt as if the whole world was his. No, it was as if she was the entire world. I love how we get to witness the male lead's POV when they're in love. The following morning, Peony awakens and stretches outside her carriage, which Equus's soldiers notice. They give her a stern look, as she expects, but she is startled to hear them all coughing. Realizing that they're all unwell worries Peony, so she asks Sonia to assist her. Eventually, all the soldiers find themselves holding a cup, unsure of the situation, prompting Peony to inform everyone that it's a honey tea that she used to have whenever she catched a cold. But because she is the princess of their adversary, nobody wants to drink it, which makes Sonia furious. The maid is so irritated by the whole situation that she stresses out that the drink is truly just honey tea and lets them know how hard it was for her to prepare it. She even adds that it contains precious honey, cinnamon, and lemon, admitting that obtaining all of these ingredients is not easy. Actually, Peony gave Sonia her hairpin, decorated with expensive gems, and ordered her to use it in exchange for the ingredients, which she finds difficult to get. Sonia's arms almost fell off as she stirred over the burning fire, so this explains why she's upset watching everyone. One of the soldiers then tries to drink it, implying that the princess has no reason to hurt them, but is surprised to discover that it tastes excellent, prompting everyone to queue up to have their cups filled with the tea. Sonia then reminds everyone to thank the princess if they enjoyed the tea, which they all do, making Peony smile. Sonia has anger issues! Later that day, Peony is glad to notice that the soldier's coughing has decreased. She then starts to ponder how things might have turned out if she had been more involved as Gabriella, reflecting on her past timidity. She was hesitant to do anything at the time because she's aware that their marriage was just a need for her survival. Yet, as she found herself growing closer to him, a mix of joy and apprehension filled her heart. It took her some time to muster the courage to approach him, fearing his rejection and the risk of revealing her true feelings, as well as the possibility of losing him. She also treated the soldiers of the Northern Sea with reservations, fully aware of the limited duration of her reign as Grand Duchess. Now, seeing the familiar faces and smiles makes her bitterly regret not treating them more kindly during her time as Grand Duchess of Equus. She not only loved Ernst, but she also fell in love with the people. Still, she won't let those thoughts stop her now, as life is too short for that. Just then, she is surprised to see someone she knows, the handsome-looking Lieutenant General Christian Belmer. She actually loves all of the soldiers, but these 5 stand out in particular. Sebastian Descens is a devoted subordinate and close friend who serves under Ernst. Christian Belmer, whose family has a reputation for unwavering loyalty to Equus. Balkan Tortes, Ernst's trusted right-hand man and vice admiral. Gion Aigues, who never fails to bring a smile to her face. And lastly, there's Brunhild Eneto, a soldier whose courage and outspokenness surpasses those of any man she has ever encountered. Peony sits beside Christian and greets him, delighted to see him so grown up. However, he gives her a frigid glare, urging her to quit poking around and return to her carriage before quickly leaving, which makes her smile and leads her to believe he's still as harsh as ever. She swiftly devises a plan and addresses the man by name, which surprises him because he doesn't recall introducing himself to her, leading her to believe he should do it next time. She breaks her Peony character and lectures him not to make it clear that he dislikes the person he's speaking with now that he's a lieutenant commander, which startles him so much. Peony remembers Christian liking her in the past, so who knows? This guy might be the first person to realize that she is actually Gabriella. Ooh, I like how she's just here giving them hints. However, even if her plan fails and no one recognizes her true identity, or if she and Ernst don't end up in a blissful marriage, it doesn't change the fact that she is the Grand Duchess of Equus and she vows to do her part well this time. The next morning, Peony awakens to a loud voice calling her name, which is something she has been expecting. The forces of the day and the forces of the night have long been enemies, so it's unsurprising that a conflict will occur when they travel such a long distance together, and it is exactly what she has been looking forward to. When the soldier meets Peony, he quickly identifies himself as Gahan and explains his role in transporting the food. He then expresses his displeasure with the northern soldiers, who have suddenly insisted on dividing the rations in half, something he refuses to do owing to trust issues. Calling the northern soldiers foolish makes Peony think he's insane for believing she'll side with him. Gahan persists his tirade, accusing them of disrespecting not only him but also the Emperor, who assigned him the task of transporting the food, despite Peony's prior knowledge that he will most likely cause trouble because he wants the northern soldiers to beg him for food, which will not happen if he gives them their rations right away. Peony grins, thinking that this is her chance to send back the imperial family's men. She decides to act innocently, claiming that everything is too difficult for her to understand, which makes Gahan think she's stupid. So he uses the chance to say that it is understandable since she is young and that he must step in to protect the Emperor's dignity. However, Peony gives him a sneaky smile before beaming purely, knowing full well that he is insulting her husband's army. She also dislikes the way he speaks of the Emperor's dignity and acts as if he were the Emperor himself, which causes her to cry, so she suggests that he leave immediately. This only intensifies Gahan's shouting, which infuriates Peony and quickly demands that all the soldiers return or else she will inform Ludwig, triggering a reaction from all the forces present. I really enjoy how her wicked side doesn't match her innocent face. She then assigns Gahan's cousin, who, oh my, looks exactly like him, to oversee the food transport, which he gladly accepts. But this leads to a fight with Gahan. Well, this is exactly how she wants things to be. She doesn't only hand out tea, She also observes how people interact, who hates who, and who is a rival, just like these two, and she is pleased with the results of her work. A dangerous woman indeed. Ernst unexpectedly approaches her from behind, stating that it is inappropriate for her to observe men fighting and would like to escort her somewhere else. But Peony clutches his uniform and declares that she's not leaving until the man disappears from her sight. She believes that if she wants to improve her relationship with Ernst, who does not acknowledge her by name, she must first assure him that they are on the same side, which is why she wants the Emperor's troops to pack up and leave. Just then, Gehan explains that everything is a misunderstanding, and asks how she could allow his cousin, of all people, to take his position. This drives Ernst to act fast, slamming his blade into Gehan's hands and instructing his soldiers to obey Peony's orders. With a stern voice, Ernst commends Peony's tactic of giving Gehan's position to someone he already rivals with, but he warns her that there is no need for her to do anything, leading her to believe that he's pushing her away. She is still trying to comprehend his words when Sonya enters. Sonya then begins shaking the already unconscious Gehan, demanding that he return the princess's emerald hairpin, which he collected in exchange for a jar of honey. Will you look at that? Who would have guessed that this maid would be so helpful to Peony, who is now trying to hide her smile because the forces of the Night Force's impression of her will undoubtedly increase. They are amazed that the honey tea they drank last night was so expensive, which leads them to think that Peony is a selfless person, whereas Ernst does not like how kind Peony is to his people. Still, he thanks Peony for preparing his men's tea, but he asks her not to do it again. They are now at the harbor, busy loading everything onto the ship, and Sebastian is impressed that Peony was able to send away half of the Forces of Light troops, which is a huge help to them. He also notes that their soldiers are now admiring the princess, and while he understands that the princess is most likely using her title to bring down the weak, it is nevertheless refreshing to have some thorns removed. Sebastian is stating all of this with a smile, which makes Ernst uncomfortable, because it appears that his opinion of Peony has also changed for the better, prompting Seb to return to his calm voice as he disagrees with the Grand Duke's claims. Poor guy is definitely conflicted that his Gabriella is being replaced. In any case, despite their constant conflicts, the Imperial family and House Aquis collaborated by providing each other with resources that the other lacked. The Land of Light provides the other force with fruits and grains, while the Land of Night provides magic oil, which can be obtained in the Aquis Sea and is essential for magical research. Things would have been fine if these were the only items traded, but the Land of Night required more than food supplies from the Land of Light because their people suffer from polar illness. It is a horrible condition that causes pupils to shrink until they disappear, leaving the eye completely white, and no one is immune to this incurable illness that exists only in the north. The only thing they can do is slow down the spread of the condition with eye drops. However, to produce these eye drops, they require the Sun Halo herb, which is only found in the Temple of Valeris. As a result, Aquis has always had to submit to the Imperial family. However, this has changed due to the arranged marriage, as the Imperial family has agreed to send a team of specialists to study the illness, provided that the princess takes charge of it. They undoubtedly believed it wouldn't work because the princess is dumb, right? Well, sorry not sorry. This is one of the reasons Ernst agrees to marry. Despite his dislike for the Imperial family's addition to the contract that they will give 500 tons of Sun Halo herb if they bear a child, as well as the requirement that he and Peony share a room at least once a week, because he has no intention of ever having another woman by his side other than Gabriella. My guy is madly in love. Ernst then walks with Peony to inform her that she'll be meeting with the Polar Illness Research Unit, because she'll be overseeing the project, something she is unaware of. This respected man then makes a 90-degree bow to beg Peony not to return these researchers, prompting her to immediately tell him to stop bowing. She is heartbroken to witness how her husband has never changed. Still, he sacrifices his dignity, even to his enemies, for the benefit of his people. Peony assures him that she will not return them because Aquis is now her home, and she smiles at him, hoping to work together to make their people happy, when she suddenly becomes feeling sick and collapses. When she feels a sudden intense heat, like she's on fire, Ernst's voice calls out to her, "Gabby." She opens her eyes and realizes she's back in her old bedroom at Aquis. What makes it even more surreal is seeing Ernst by her side, smiling so warmly at her. She then starts talking against her will, but as he draws her nearer, she is horrified to see that her hair is pink, indicating that she is still within Peony's body. What was that? This wakes her up, and Sonya explains how the Grand Duke carried her to this chamber, the captain's cabin, before leaving the room to call him. Ernst appears in an instant with an old doctor she knows as Lorenzo, and she is surprised that the old man is still alive. She had no hesitation about letting the doctor examine her, as she and Ernst have wholeheartedly trusted the old man. As the doctor does his thing, she recalls her earlier dream, which felt so real, and is deeply concerned about the fact that Ernst called her Gabby when she was Peony. She has an unusual feeling about that dream, and she realizes that this must be what the real Peony has been going through, having visions without warning and feeling burned alive. Lorenzo then declares that there's nothing seriously wrong with Peony's body and just advises her to rest. Following that, Ernst steps outside to look at the vast ocean illuminated by the moonlight. He criticizes himself for being insane since he felt fear when Peony fainted earlier, the same fear he felt when Gabriella died. Even though Lorenzo has assured Peony that she is fine, he still feels a twinge of worry because, despite their obvious differences, Peony keeps making him think of Gabriella. His musings are interrupted when Peony appears to offer him a sandwich, which he just accepts but is unprepared to discover that it tastes exactly like Gabriella's. However, he stops being Delulu when Peony claims the chef made it himself, prompting him to turn away. Nah, she definitely made that one for sure. For some reason, Peony starts singing a sailor song, and much to his surprise, he finds it uplifting. The other troops arrived, enthralled by her mini show, and they all join in singing along, enjoying the night's smooth sailing. Ernst, however, remains mystified as to why the pink-haired princess is so reminiscent of his wife Gabriella, so he makes it his mission to uncover the reason. While he is adamant about solving the puzzle, our girl here is to provide him with the pieces. You both got this! Even after Gabriella died, she remained in her husband's life. Whether his eyes are closed or open, Gabby is always by his side. Ernst will eat alone but continue to talk to Gabby as if she were sitting next to him. Gosh, he's struggling so badly. Since Lorenzo felt sorry for him and had prescribed medication for his mental health, he chose to act normally. Yet the reality is that he has zero plans of moving on from Gabriella and is stuck in the past. He has been ignoring subtle clues, but now he finally decides to investigate the princess's connection to Gabby. The following morning, she meets with the research team over breakfast and is relieved that the imperial family sent decent people. One of them is Trisha Favor, the leader, who promises to provide her with regular updates despite being known as dumb, which makes her happy. Their conversation halts when they hear the ship's loud honk, prompting Peony to rush outside and express her delight at finally being home. The old man butler, Owen, is the first to welcome her when they arrive at the palace, which makes her so overjoyed that she ends up greeting him formally, just like Gabby would. She then sweats, remembering she forgot to act dumb, so she behaves childishly and clings to Owen, rubbing her cheeks against him. Granny Betty, the head maid, is the next to greet her, so she follows suit and squishes her cheeks. She really looks cute, though. Peony is taking a relaxing bath when she realizes Sonia is still calling her Your Highness, so she tells her to call her Your Grace from now on because she's no longer a princess but a Grand Duchess. After that, she walks to her room, and although Ernst did not give her the Grand Duchess's bedroom, she is pleased to have a wonderful view of the sea and is not sent to the Eastern Villa. Speaking of her husband, he enters the room and says that they must continue to share a bedroom for a week, as is customary. He then discusses two things. The first being that he is aware that married couples in the Land of Light use different bedrooms to bring home their lovers, which he believes Peony is expecting. So he scares her by telling her that people in his land always share a bedroom. Surprisingly, though, Peony not only agrees with him, but completely loves the idea. Peony then changes the subject and asks what else he wants to talk about, prompting Ernst to inform her that an 11-year-old girl named Charlotte Saint-Trin is currently living at his mansion. He then discloses that he went to battle 3 years ago with Charlotte's parents, but the couple was killed in action while protecting him. Ernst seems saddened as he proceeds to explain that Charlotte is in the final stages of polar illness, which is why he took her in, expecting to raise her like a little sister. However, he is surprised when Peony does not find this bothersome and is willing to take care of the child on one condition. They have to enter into a contract marriage. Ernst is so shocked because this is the exact same thing Gabriella had asked him before. A contract is really unnecessary, so our girl is probably only planting seeds in his mind. Clever. Ignoring his reaction, Peony continues to explain the 4 conditions of their contract. First, it lasts for 5 years, during which they must act as if they love each other. Second, they must genuinely try to love each other, regardless of the outcome. Third, they must respect each other as spouses throughout the duration of the contract and discuss any issues they may have. And finally, If one of them wants to divorce after 5 years, they have the option to continue their relationship for up to 2 more chances. Wait, those are the exact opposite of their contract before. Maybe he will get the hint. However, Ernst frankly says that he's terrible at acting, so even the first requirement of this contract is impossible for him to meet, and that he is unlikely to fall in love with her. However, he promises to ensure she is treated fairly in Equus, which surprises her, but then she accepts. It appears that her plan was unsuccessful, but even if Ernst has forgotten about Gabriella, she swears not to bear any resentment against him as long as she can see him smile again. My heart really hurts for these lovebirds. The next morning, Sonia knocks on her door and brings Hazel along to help her get dressed. While Peony is surprised to learn that the head maid's granddaughter has grown up and will now serve as her lady-in-waiting. After that, Peony walks to the corridor, trailed by Sonia and Hazel. As she grips the railings of the stairs, everyone greets her, and the butler's greeting causes her to pause momentarily. Hearing the familiar greeting from the same person makes her nostalgic. I can't imagine how painful this is to her, though. She can't tell them anything. Just then, a small girl in a blue dress introduces herself as Charlotte Saintrin and gives Peony a handmade scarf, which Peony quickly drapes over her shoulders, beaming as she thanks her. However, a loud voice interrupts them, calling Lottie's name and rushing toward the girl to embrace her while asking if she is hurt. Huh? Hurt? Too early for drama, Missy. The butler then reminds the intruder to introduce herself to the Grand Duchess. The woman introduces herself as Rachel Ballon, Charlotte's governess, and explains that she is unable to get out of bed due to vertigo, while Lottie has left without her. Peony has taken notice of what she did, and what we have here is a mere employee who has not properly addressed her or Charlotte. Peony then greets Rachel back and tells her that she doesn't have to greet her in the morning since she doesn't want Lottie to take up any bad habits from her, prompting Rachel to defend herself by acting like a victim. However, our girl gets the final word in here, saying that if Rachel has vertigo, how could she be able to run, while giving her a grin? Peony then enthusiastically claps her hands, expressing her annoyance at all the commotion, and introduces herself to everyone, graciously thanking them for promptly attending their daily morning greetings. She emphasizes her commitment to treating everyone fairly and expresses her genuine interest in getting to know each individual. She also reveals the thrilling news that, from the day forward, Lottie will be known as Lady Charlotte, a member of the Equus family. She demands that everyone treat Charlotte as if she were the younger sister of Grand Duke, which came as a surprise. But they all bow down to her except for Rachel. This leads Peony to give Rachel a batty smile and orders her to bow down. Yup, you better know your place, you disrespectful little witch with amnesia. After Rachel follows Peony's instructions, she demands that she refer to Lottie as Lady Charlotte from now on, which Rachel reluctantly accepts. Rachel is now walking, but she wonders how a stupid person can be so articulate. She genuinely wishes to marry the Grand Duke because she is the only noble lady in the palace, which is why she became governess, but now she blames Peony for derailing her plans. I knew it. I can already sense her greed. At that moment, she spots the Duke approaching, prompting her to quickly go over to welcome him. However, as she extends her hand, Sebastian abruptly swats it away, reminding her of her limits. Good job there, Sebi! Despite feeling awkward, she continues in congratulating the Duke for accepting Charlotte into the Equus family, which surprises Sebastian, since they haven't made an official announcement yet. This girl believes this is her time to earn the Grand Duke's favor, so she reports that the new Grand Duchess made the announcement on her own during the morning greeting. She goes on to voice her concern that Peony, who comes from the Land of Light, holds resentment for individuals suffering from polar illnesses and may harm Charlotte, to which Sebastian quickly corrects her, reminding her to address her as Lady Charlotte as instructed by the Duchess. Meanwhile, Ernst gives her a hard look and bluntly says that this matter isn't something he needs to discuss with a governess. For short, it's none of your business, you little wench! Meanwhile, Peony is going around the palace and realizes how old the place is, so she inquires about the cost of remodeling the entire castle from Owen and discovers that it is beyond their budget, leading her to let out a sigh of disappointment. The Equus aren't really wealthy because they are unable to trade or welcome any foreign merchants due to the polar night, which begins in the fall and lasts till the end of winter, meaning the sun doesn't rise for about half of the year, which is why most merchants avoid their nation. Owen is taken aback by Peony's suggestion that Equus could become a travel destination, which reminds him of the day Gabriella first proposed this exact idea. She had previously abandoned the idea due to Gabriella's lack of connections to the forces of Day, But now that she has become the princess of the Land of Light, she is convinced that this plan will succeed. She then quickly expresses her gratitude to Owen for the tour before leaving. That evening, Lottie welcomes her in the dining hall, and just as Peony is about to take a seat, the Duke lets her sit at the head of the table, causing all of the servants to react. This move substantially boosts her position, which she eagerly accepts and makes her flush. The couple then discovers that Lottie wants to be an artist, which makes them want to see her paintings, and prompts Peony to suggest that they give Lottie a brooch so she can access his office, which Ernst agrees to. After that, Lottie decides to allow the two some alone time, but Peony knows Ernst will return to his office soon, although she really wants to spend more time with him, so she invites him to join her for a drink and offers to toast Charlotte's parents. As they celebrate, Ernst catches Peony setting aside the cucumbers from her cake, prompting her to admit that she dislikes cucumbers. Ernst seemed to hate it as well, but she freezes when he mentions that his late wife doesn't like it either. She stutters, finding the coincidence amusing, but Ernst's eyes show his suspicion of her. But he decides to change the subject, asking her to select the brooch they will give to Lottie. He also gives her permission to buy one for herself, but Peony declines since she would rather spend the money renovating their old palace. Ernst then assumes that she's refusing because she doesn't want to use her money, so he informs her that she doesn't have to use her dignity maintenance allowance, which is new news for her. This prompts him to clarify that the imperial family will provide her with monthly monetary support, which fills her with excitement because now she has money to spend wisely. Peony then tells him that Owen informed her that there is a place she cannot visit, and she asks Ernst to show her where it is. They continue down the hallway until they arrive at his late wife's bedroom, a place she is forbidden to enter. However, she remains determined to peek inside, saying that she wants to learn more about the late Duchess. Initially hesitant, he eventually relents, leaving her astonished to discover the room exactly as she had left it, which is making her smile so bitterly. Ernst admits that he was aware of the need to dispose of everything before getting married again, but he couldn't find the strength to do it, which makes her wonder why, and is shocked when he reveals that it is because he still loves the late Grand Duchess. She has always assumed that Ernst didn't love her, yet their feelings were mutual the entire time. How does it feel to hear someone you love confess their feelings but knowing you can't do anything about it? My soft heart is aching. She recalls the many evenings she spent writing down her suppressed emotions, but she never got to give him those letters. So she purposely flung the book on the floor, exposing her concealed letters for him to find. Even though it was late, she still wanted him to know how much she loved him and that he wasn't the only one who felt that way. Peony attempts to console him by gently holding his hands, but he unintentionally pushes her hand away. He promptly apologizes and offers to escort her to her room. However, as she shuts the door, he finds himself sitting on the floor outside, overhearing Princess Peony's cries. She must be feeling so much regret and longing right now. Ernst is aware that he expressed his feelings poorly today, but it is because Peony keeps reminding him of Gabriella. He even entertains the idea that Gabriella may have passed away and transformed into Princess Peony. But he also acknowledges that his longing to keep his time with Gabriella intact might be the reason behind his hallucinations. For some reason, hearing Princess Peony cry disturbs him, but he does know that he doesn't want to let fresh memories of someone else replace his memories of Gabby. What can you do if your rival is your past self? It's been a week since she settled in Equus, and she's still not sure what happened to the ring heirloom she swallowed before dying as Gabby. She is convinced that the enemies don't have it, but Ernst does not wear it either, so she begins to question if the ring is still inside Gabriella's body. She desperately needs answers, but as a princess from the Land of Light, she cannot simply ask Ernst about it, so she has to wait for him to disclose it. Finding a treatment for polar illness is, of course, a more pressing matter that needs immediate attention. She knows just what they need: unicorn tears, a holy substance capable of treating all illnesses and even resurrecting the dead with a single drop. However, they can only find unicorn tears in one location: Afterglow Forest, located on the boundary between the lands of light and darkness. In that forest resides a unicorn, but only women with pure hearts are allowed to approach the holy being. Regardless of how tough it is to achieve, one thing is certain: they can repair Lottie's eyes once they have those tears. Afterwards, Sebastian interrupts Peony and Lottie's reading session in the library to inform her that the Galahad is on his way. Given Sebi's belief that Peony is ignorant of events unfolding in Equus, he proceeds to show her a map while explaining that the Galahad serves to safeguard trading vessels against pirate attacks. Equus is a nation surrounded by water, and Delpart, their nemesis, sends pirates to steal from vessels bound by the Shulak Kingdom. Because Shulak is just to their east, they pay Equus to protect the vessels traveling to their kingdom. After explaining everything, Sebastian asks Peony if she can plan the welcoming party for the crew of the Galahad, which she gladly accepts and is determined to make the celebration the best it can be. Peony then excitedly asks Lottie if she wants to go shopping with her tomorrow, but the young child lowers her head and declines, fearing that she is not enjoyable to be around and will be a nuisance. This makes Peony ask Sebastian whether no one has ever taken Lottie outside the palace, which causes the guy to scratch his head and realize they have never done so. It makes sense to her because these navies will never understand what a young girl needs. So she takes Lottie's hand and promises her that she has nothing to worry about and that she only wants to take her for a walk and see the busy streets. Lottie starts crying and finally admits that she actually wants to go to the famous dessert shop while showing her a dazzling smile. So precious and must be protected. However, the third prince and Rachel decide to join them, ruining their date. They are now in the carriage when Johann decides to speak about his annoyance at Peony's disappointed expression, prompting Peony to use her authority as Grand Duchess to silence him. She doesn't want to fight him because they're both victims of their families, but she can't let him be rude. In all of Peony's memories, Johann was the poor kid who was constantly abused. Given that the first prince is the empress's son, the second prince is the son of an imperial consort, and both Peony and Johann are the children of a foreign consort, the two of them are beaten up, particularly by the second prince. Peony used to cheer him up, but as time passed, Johann grew colder and began neglecting her. They've been through a lot, huh? When they arrive in the town, Peony receives a note from Ernst requesting that they visit the Blue Crystal dress shop, as he has already contacted them to make her high-quality dresses. One officer then guides them to the shop, where Madame Nuleta, the owner, greets them cheerfully and announces that she has already made 10 casual clothes, 20 party dresses, and more. However, Peony promptly interrupts the madam and frankly states that she will not buy any dresses and would like them refunded, which surprises the madam. Peony knows that this is the only dress shop in the area, so she can't just make up a reason to go to another shop, so she intends to persuade the madam to give her free stuff. She begins her act by sighing and stating that she'll feel horrible wearing nice clothes when their officers have worn out clothes from the battle, prompting the madam to suggest that she make the officers' uniforms. When Peony asks whether it is free, the madam has no choice but to answer yes, so that Peony does not back out of buying clothes from her. Meanwhile, Johann, who has been analyzing Peony, is sure that she is more cunning, unlike his real sister. Johann has always enjoyed going to parties as if it were a hobby, and while he hasn't given up hope of becoming emperor, he also doesn't do anything to get the position. However, despite his partying lifestyle, he is sticking in Equus because of Peony. To explain what happened, the real Peony was aware that Gabriella would take over her body, and the day before that, she went to her brother's room looking so happy as she said her final goodbye. Johann at the time believed she was going insane when she said another lady would enter her body and marry a lovely gentleman. She moved closer, their foreheads touching, and asked him to help the woman. After that, she calmly made her way to the porch, where she said that he would look dashing with a white cape and golden crown. Hold on a second. My heart breaks for this. So she was aware, but she took it so lightly? Is it because she believes the new owner of her body will help him live a decent life? Or is it because leaving means she won't have to suffer anymore? Johann then recalls the grin on his younger sister's face and regrets pushing her away, realizing how much he loved her. I never thought these siblings would make me feel things. Now, as he gazes at the fake Peony before him, he promises to fulfill his sister's wish and will make every effort to be at her side whenever she needs him. After completing their dress shopping, Peony and Lottie venture out into the bustling streets, where they lose sight of both Rachel and Johann. However, Lottie unexpectedly stumbles upon something, or rather, someone. A white-haired man sleeps on the ground while hiding in his invisible cloak, then suddenly wakes up claiming to be Yurione Nibelung. Peony remembers his name as a member of the Polar Illness Research Team and knows he's a mage. Before Peony can introduce herself, Yurione refers to her as the Serpent Bearer, which surprises her because Peony's constellation is Pisces. But Gabriella is, in fact, the Serpent Bearer, meaning that this guy can read her soul. After Peony leaves, Yurione smiles, surprised to find a soul radiating so much magic, but he believes Peony has not yet awakened, which excites him. Meanwhile, Ernst is at his office, reading Gabriella's letters, and even though he can no longer respond to her, he decides to write her a letter and place flowers on her grave. During dinner, Peony thanks Ernst for the dresses, but she also voices her opinion that they should have used the money to repair the palace, which he quickly refuses while muttering that he will only fix everything when Gabby returns, which she did not catch. My poor man is in so much pain. After that, the officer from earlier reports back to the Grand Duke about how excellent Peony was at bargaining earlier. But Ernst and Sebastian become confused when they find that Peony didn't use the standard, "I will go to the other shop if you don't do this and that" negotiation. Ernst grows suspicious because it seems like Peony already knew that the dress shop has no competitors. So he consults Sebastian, who quickly confirms that he is now certain that Peony is not stupid. For the time being, he proposes that Ernst continue to trust Peony while he investigates anything suspicious. In order to do so, they would need someone to protect and monitor her. And it is none other than Christian, who looks traumatized as he pretends to cheer and compliment Peony's new dress. She then shows him her new anklet while lifting her dress, causing this innocent guy to become flustered and cry on the inside for going through such a task. Peony chuckles at how red he is and refers to him as shy little Christian, which is exactly what Gabriella used to call him when she teased him. He becomes perplexed and attempts to persuade himself that the idea of Gabriella's soul residing within the princess is merely a concept from a novel. It won't be long before the entire Equus can't sleep due to confusion and be like, "She's exactly like the late Grand Duchess." After a week, they're on their way to the celebration, and Peony is excited to see everyone again. Before riding in the carriage, she asks Ernst if the dress looks nice on her, but her husband merely gives her a straight face and claims that she is so beautiful that all men can't stop looking at her. Lies. She thinks he is lying because she knows the expression he makes when he means it. She then reaches for his hand and with a serious tone inquires as to whether he is one of the men he mentions. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!